Hello, it's Jamie in for Lisa on New Year's Eve, and one of the top 5 resolutions which people make at this time of year is to find a new job, would you believe? Obviously people want to stop drinking as much, get fit, lose some weight, but one of the other most popular ones is this idea that actually they're not happy in the jobs that they're doing at the moment, they'd like to do something else, or perhaps if you're not in work at the moment, this is the year, 2011 is the year that you're going to find a job that you would love to do. But it's a difficult time, isn't it, with all the cutbacks that the government's instigating, hundreds of thousands of public sector jobs going right across the country, but particularly in the North East in the coming year or so. Laura Sharpe runs Sharpe Recruitment across Yorkshire and the North East and has joined me in the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Let's start with the outlook, because it must be quite easy to be kind of downcast in the current financial climate about your chances of getting a job if you want one. So how you approach looking for a job must be quite important, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think people do feel quite disheartened at the moment, but, I'm here to really say that there are jobs out there, there are opportunities, and no matter how grim it might feel right now, there's always an opportunity around the corner. And the really important thing when you're out there looking, one of the key elements is obviously your CV. But there are key things you need to be looking at with your CV. For example, you need to be looking at the keywords that you're putting on there. I think from, an insider point of view, one of the things that people don't realise when they're sending the CV off here, there and everywhere, especially to recruitment consultants, is how important the keywords are that are on there. So you need to make sure that you don't just say you can do something once, you keep saying it over and over again. Our databases work a bit like Google. The more we see a keyword, the more likely your CV is to come up when we're searching for relevant candidates for new jobs. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realise with the CV.
So how do you know what the keyword should be?
You need to be looking at the jobs you're applying for, looking at the descriptions and looking at the keywords that are on there, and they do vary from description to description. It might be the same job you're applying for,
right,
but it can be worded differently, so you need to be careful on that.
So you need to maybe have more than one CV. Each CV should be specifically directed for that specific job you're applying for.
Yes, absolutely. My best advice is always to have one master CV that could be 5 or 6 pages, but that never goes anywhere. Every time you apply for a new job, you cut that CV down to 2 to 3 pages of all the most relevant information according to the description that you're applying for.
Okay, so 2 to 3 pages you reckon is the best length?
Definitely. Any longer than 3 pages and you will actually be marked down, you may be deleted without being read, and you definitely won't be invited for interview more often than not.
What about things like putting your photo on there?
Definitely not. Please don't put your photos on your CV. I hate it, and I think everybody else does that's recruiting. It doesn't work. It's not a UK-wide thing to do. Yes, it's acceptable in other parts of the world, but not here. We don't need to see you unless you're applying for an acting job.
Right, okay. Fair enough. We'll talk a little bit more about where to actually find the jobs, because, this is the problem. People say there's no work out there. You would maintain that there are jobs available. You just got to know where to look. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Morrison, Brown-Eyed Girl on BBC Tees. It's Jamie in for Lisa this afternoon. We've got Laura Sharpe, who runs Sharpe Recruitment, in the studio with us today. Just kind of bring us up to speed, really, because 2011 is going to be a difficult year financially for people. There is definitely a greater risk than there has been in recent times for people losing their jobs because of the various cutbacks, especially in the public sector. So let's talk a little bit about where, if you are in a position where you have to find a new job, if you've maybe been made redundant, or you want to find the right job, where do you find these jobs? Because it used to be you just go to the job centre. Yeah. Maybe some people would search online, but these days there are more options, aren't there?
Absolutely. I think online the job boards are still popular, and it's always worth checking them, the likes of Fish4 and Reed and things like that. But I think really importantly is to look at things like Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook. A lot of employers, because of what's going on in the economy, are looking to recruit staff at no cost, and social networking is a way for them to do that. You don't have to have a Twitter account to search for a job in Twitter. I think that's a common misconception. You can use it like Google. Go in, search, things will come up. If you search on specific keywords like IT, job, Middlesbrough, people that are advertising those kind of jobs will have tweeted them with a link to the job somewhere online for you to apply and send your CV in. It's a really simple process. They also come up in Google a lot anyway. So, you will see social networking coming through more and more this year, I think, for job searching.
I mean, that's interesting because things like Twitter are very popular with a certain sort of demographic, to use the terminology. But, my mum, for instance, who's just turned 60 and, all right, probably isn't going to need to be looking for a new job, but if she did, wouldn't have the first idea, of what Twitter is or how it works. So Twitter obviously is it's a sort of social network that uses short messages, but you can just go in and just type a word in the search box, can't you? And you can search what everybody's talking about, in inverted commas, on Twitter at that moment. So it's a great way of finding out information that you need, as well as a sort of secondary Google almost.
Well, it is, absolutely. And the same with LinkedIn. You don't have to have a profile on LinkedIn, but really if you're looking for a job at the moment, and no matter what age you are, no matter what industry you're wanting a job in, if it's an office-based role, then you really should have a LinkedIn profile. And if you haven't, well, shame on you, really.
What about, this idea that beggars can't be choosers? The times are difficult. There probably aren't going to be as many jobs around as there have been in the past.
No.
What about just sort of swallowing your pride almost and looking at doing either something you've never thought of doing before, maybe retraining, or maybe just a completely different way of working, shift work or split shifts or doing part-time jobs? That's been quite popular at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, it's amazing actually how people working part-time has increased by 26,000 between August and October, and it's now at 7.96 million people working part-time, and a lot of that is made up of people that used to work full-time but are looking at just covering the bills, and I think that's really important. And it can be in something you haven't done before. I think the first step, if you are struggling to find a role in your specialised area, is maybe look at taking some careers advice and guidance. There's loads out there. People like myself that used to just fill jobs all the time are having to diversify ourselves because of the marketplace. So I now offer CV and careers advice guidance, as well as interview technique guidance. And I think, if you search out there and look for people that can help you, it's minimal cost, and it can actually really help you to maximise your opportunities and look at where you can actually switch your career, look at the transferable skill set and how to adapt your CV in order to get those different jobs.
How easy is it to do? If I wanted tomorrow to go and learn how to become a plumber, I don't know how many transferable skills I've got from doing what I'm doing today to doing that. How do you even start just going down a completely new route?
Well, in recent years, the government has thrown money at this. Maybe that's partly why we're in the situation we're in. But the colleges and the higher education establishments have had so much money put into apprenticeship schemes and things like that. There's advice and guidance readily available from people like myself, but also just searching the internet, going down to your local college. They have open evenings and things like that. And if you are out of work, the job centre should really be encouraging you to look at studying and learning new skills and doing something different that's maybe part-time evening study. And if you do find you are enjoying something that's a bit different but you don't have anything like that on your CV, then get out there and ask for work experience. You're not going to get a paid full-time job in a new area if you've got nothing on your CV that relates to it. If you can do work experience, you can work up to 16 hours a week while still being on the dole. So you can actually, work part-time and build those skills and that experience up, so that eventually you will get a full-time job. And the job centres also offer a work trial scheme where you can work for people for, they'll cover your costs for working for people, again, to build that experience up. So, just look out there, talk to people and really go for it. And, don't feel disheartened, and because I'm sure there's the right job out there for everybody. You've just got to keep working at it to find it.
Just finally, you said that you've having to diversify a little bit and offering things like, advice on how to do an interview.
Yes.
There will be people listening today who have been in the same job for 20 years, 25 years maybe, and have found themselves made redundant. There will be people who've, quite happily and skillfully worked at places like Teesside Cast Products, for instance, who now find themselves without a job. Yeah. The idea of having to go into an interview after being happy and successful at work for a decent period of time, it could be crippling, I think, the fear at the idea of that. So just basically, give me some hints and tips as to how to approach an interview if you haven't had to do one for a while.
I think, well, it's a bit like me coming on the radio today. I've never been on the radio before. You know, it's all about thinking about it beforehand, planning ahead, running through it in your mind, feeling comfortable, know your CV inside out, make sure there's nothing on your CV that's going to trip you up. I'm sure we've all watched The Apprentice. We've all learnt from that. Don't lie. You know, you do get found out. Make sure you feel comfortable with all of the subject matter on there. And really, you know, calm yourself down before you go into the interview. Arrive 10 or 15 minutes before at least, but don't go into the interview more than 5 minutes early. That's a key point, that interviewers can feel rushed and they can feel stressed, and that can set things off on the bad foot. And also, when you are in there, don't forget to smile. I think that's my biggest advice to everybody going into an interview. Your nerves take over, your face freezes up, you look like a rabbit in headlights, and it really puts the interviewer off. So whatever you're saying, however you feel, no matter how nervous you are, please don't forget to smile, and that really will help you to get that job, because it shows a positive mental attitude.
Well, I hope this didn't feel like a job interview today.
Not at all, it was great.
Thanks for coming in, Laura. If people maybe want to follow you on Twitter, for instance, and see what jobs you got going, or have a look on your website, what are the details that they need?
To follow me on Twitter, you need to look at Sharpe Recruit, and that's Sharpe with an E. My website is www.sharperecruitment.co.uk, and all the details of how to contact me are on there. There's an inquiry form. Please do get in touch if you need any advice or guidance. I'm here to help.
And just finally, you came in today and you brought me a box of chocolatey mini bites. Is that something you'd advise doing if you got a job interview?
Absolutely.
Taking treats.
Bribery and corruption get you everywhere.
Thanks for coming in. Have a great new year.
And you. Thank you, Jamie.
Nice to see you. That's Laura Sharpe. This is BBC Tees. Approaching 2:30. Here's Rod Stewart and Rhythm in My Heart.